Good morning. I'm going to present today on muscle spindles and stretch reflex. So previously I presented on introduction to flexibility. I was mentioning about the stretch reflex as well last 2 weeks. So it's mediated by the muscle spindles usually. So before I talk about muscle spindle further detail, so I'll talk about this motor neurons, how the signal is being transmitted from brain to muscles for the muscle coordination. So the first thing I'm going to talk is about the motor neuron. So it's a new cell that got passed the signal from the brain to the muscle for the muscle coordination. So there's two types of motor neuron. So the first one is anterior motor neuron. So this anterior motor neuron usually will be located at the anterior horn of the quadrilateral metal. So I've mentioned previously, this is our gray matter. So the anterior horn of the quadrilateral metal, so it will be over here. And the interneuron, it will be everywhere over the gray matter. So anywhere, like all areas of quad gray matter. It can be at the dorsal, anterior, or intermediate in them. So then anterior motor neurons will give rise to this alpha motor neuron. Is further divided into alpha motor neuron and gamma motor neuron. So this alpha motor neuron usually will give rise to a alpha motor nerve fiber. So I have mentioned this previously when I was talking about types of nerve fiber. So and also this gamma motor neurons will give rise to a gamma motor nerve fibers. So the diameters, if you see the A alpha, the diameter is 14 micrometer. So the gamma one is a bit smaller, 5 micrometers. This one, usually A alpha will innervate the large skeletal muscle fibers, as it's big in diameter, right? So if A gamma is, it will usually innervates the intrafusal fibers. So what is intrafusal fibers? So later I'll explain on that. So this stimulation of this one single alpha nerve fiber will excite about 3 to hundreds of skeletal muscle fibers. So then I will further move on to this muscle sensory receptors. So there is two actually. One is the muscle spindles and also the Golgi tendon organs. So and their role in the muscle control. So first I will talk about this muscle spindle. And this muscle spindle usually will distribute over the belly of muscles. So usually they will talk about the muscle length and also the rate of change of the length. So if muscle spindles, basically they focus more on the length, muscle length. So if you see Golgi tendon organs, it will focus more on muscle tendons. So tendon tension and also the rate of change of the tension. So this is GTO, usually called GTO. So both the function is for the intrinsic muscle controller. So this is the muscle spindle that I've drawn. So there is from here I was talking about intrafusal just now and also extrafusal. So this is intrafusal, so the inner one. The outer one is extrafusal. You see the black one. Okay, then there is alpha motor ending. So this one will cover the extrafusal. The gamma motor ending usually cover the intrafusal. So this is the sensory, the central portion, central receptor we call it. So call it sensory receptor. So they have one. This is the type A, 1A. And this is the type 2, the red color one. So this is the diameter written here. So this is the diameter we call as 17 micrometer, and this one is about 8 micrometer. So Another thing that I'm going to explain is the primary ending and the secondary ending. So what is their function? To send basically the impulses lah. So the primary one, other name is we call it as annulospiral. So this is the they branch it like annulospiral like that over the spindles here. Then okay, why is it called as intrafusal? So it's because of the shape actually lah. So the fusiform shape. So okay, how this muscle spindle being excited? So basically this is basically if there is lengthening of the whole muscle, then the muscle spindle will be excited. Okay, then the second, the contraction of the end portion of the intrafusal. So a big contraction will cause the muscle spindle to be excited lah. Muscle spindle is expected to be excited. So another thing that I'm going to talk about is the intrafusal. So as I mentioned, the extrafusal is the out and the intrafusal is the inside. So the intrafusal, we have two types. So there's the nuclear bag muscle fibers and nuclear chain fibers. So if you see in this picture here, this is nuclear bag muscle fibers lah, and this is nuclear chain fibers. So what they meant is this is a bag actually, the nuclei is inside the bag. Okay. If you see the nuclear chain, so it's like proportional, it's like in the same row like that. So this is what they call as bag and the chain lah. So yeah, so they have the dynamic alpha fiber and also the static static gamma fiber. So this is the static and this is the dynamic. Okay, so how both, okay, I've mentioned about the primary ending and also the secondary ending. So what they do actually, so basically to the length of receptor. So basically they have the static and the dynamic. So if let's say the receptor portion of the muscle spindle is being stretched but slow, so the number of impulse being transmitted from the first and the second endings will increase directly in proportion to the degree of stretching. So they increase according to the degree of stretching lah, the number of impulse. That is meant by the static actually lah, static. So it's different with dynamic. So dynamic usually excess stimulus in the primary ending. Okay, excess stimulus in the primary ending. Okay, primary ending. Okay, then it will cause the rapid rate change in the spindle length lah. So it won't affect the secondary ending, but only the primary ending or the dynamic. So if static, both primary and secondary ending lah. So this is about the control of intensity of the static and dynamic response by the gamma motor nerve. So I have talked about the gamma motor. So gamma motor nerve, okay, this is the gamma motor nerve, right? Okay. So they have gamma dynamic and also gamma static. So the first thing they will excite is the nuclear bag fiber lah. So when the gamma D, the gamma dynamic, excites the nuclear bag fibers, so the dynamic response will be activated. So and then the static response will be like be untouched like that lah. So it goes with the gamma static. So when there's gamma X fibers excites, so the nuclear chain will be, so it will excite the nuclear chain lah. So then the static response will be enhanced, the dynamic response will be untouched lah. So yeah, so this is about the spindles, that they can send positive signal to spinal cord. So the positive signal I meant was increased number of impulse which indicate the stretch of the muscle. So the other one, this is the vice versa lah. So spindles can send negative signal which means below normal numbers of impulse to indicate the muscle is unstretched. So this is the negative signal and this is the positive signal. So then I will talk about the muscle stretch reflex. So yeah, this is about okay. This is the muscle spindle. Okay, there will be a muscle spindle with the type 1A proprioceptor nerve fiber, which origin from this muscle spindle. Okay, this is the one lah. Okay, will enter through the dorsal root of the spinal cord, and then it will go, it enter to here, and then it will go to the anterior horn of the spinal cord, and then it will synapse with the anterior neuron, so anterior motor neuron. So this is the synapse lah. So then after that it will send back, it will go back again to the same muscle actually lah. So this is what we call as monosynaptic pathway, so which means this one synapse here, this one. So then after that I will talk about the stretch reflex. They have this dynamic and also static. So if we say about dynamic, usually the muscle will be sudden stretch or unstretched, so means there will be signal transmission to spinal cord, either it's strong or weak. So in order for this the signal already transmitted, so there will be a reflex. So it's either instantaneous strong reflex contraction or slower one. So if you see the static one is usually degree of the muscle contraction will be remaining the constant long, so it won't affect much. So then this is about what this is about the damping function of dynamic and static stretch reflex. So this is a graph actually lah. So the main function is to prevent the oscillation and the jerkiness of body movement. So basically to see that the muscle is smooth, the muscle contraction is smooth or not smooth. So if you see here, this one is smooth, this one is not smooth. You see there's a jerky movement. So this is the curve A, this is curve B lah. So this one is already, this is the normal muscle actually, but this one is curve B, is like a muscle spindle which is denervated, so which cause the unsmooth muscle contraction lah, and this one is a smooth muscle contraction. So I just talk about a bit about the Golgi tendon reflex lah. So this one is encapsulated sensory receptor. The encapsulated sensory receptor, whereby the muscle tendons pass through lah, muscle tendon fibers pass through. So then what does this, there will be 10 to 15 muscle fibers connected to each Golgi tendon organ. So the organ is stimulated when this bundle of muscle fibers is being tensed, so by contracting or stretching the muscle. So as like the muscle spindle, tendon organ also has their dynamic and also the static response. So the dynamic response here is the response intensively if the muscle tension is increased. So the static one is like a very steady state of firing rate proportional to the muscle tension lah. So this is the picture of the GTO. So how is being transmitted, impulses being transmitted from tendon organ into the CNS lah. So basically through the type 1 signal being transmitted through type 1B nerve fiber. If you see the muscle spindle is 1A, so if GTO is 1B lah, so it will synapse first through into the dorsal horn of cord, and then it will transmit signal to the local cord lah. So then through that it will go to the spinocerebral tracts, to the cerebellum, or other tracts to cerebral cortex lah. So they have this inhibitory nature of the tendon reflex and its importance lah. Let's say there is increased tension in the connecting muscle, so means the GTO will be stimulated, then the signal will be transmitted to spinal cord, and then in order because there's an increased tension, so there will be a negative feedback mechanism, so which means there will be an instantaneous relaxation of entire muscle. So this whole thing we call as a lengthening reaction lah. So which is this is like a protective mechanism to prevent overuse or tear of muscle lah. So yeah, the inhibitory, so we call it as inhibitory reflex, so which gives a negative feedback mechanism that prevents development of too much of tension in the muscle.